everyone. Welcome back to Tube Talk and, of course, The Boost. My name is Travis, and I'm here normally with Jen, but Jen isn't here today. She has a day off. She'll be back. Don't worry. Don't send the messages. I already know. Where's Jen? Where's Jen? Don't worry about it. Mind your own business. But we're here with Dan from the mainstream vidIQ channel. Not only that, actually a former host of this exact podcast. How you doing, Dan?
I'm good. It's a shame about Jen. I wish her well on her...
Wait, why are you saying
off?
that like she got fired or something? What are you doing?
What?
I wish her well. It's a shame about Jen. What do you mean
On
it's a shame? It's a day off. That's not a shame. It's not a shame for her to have a day.
Travis and Jen would be here, and
yes.
I got Travis. And
this is true. Listen, I understand that.
It's a shame about Jen, and I wish her luck on
doing
her day
again?
off.
Why do you keep doing that?
What?
Dan,
I'm just
stop
saying,
it.
I wish
She's
her
not
luck
dead.
on her day
She's
off.
Listen, the podcast is as good as it ever has been. Even with, by the way, little back. We have a lot of questions to get to, but before we get into that, a lot of interesting things here. So the backstory is, if some of you have been listening to this podcast for a long time, you actually recognize Dan, not just from the YouTube channel, but he actually hosted this podcast for a very long time. And something that a lot of people don't know, during its golden run, the most downloads ever in this on the audio version of this podcast were when Dan was hosting. What do you attribute that to? I'm just kind of curious.
I didn't know this until you told me, because at the time when you're just looking at the numbers day to day, it doesn't seem like it's, it's doing pretty good, doing like it used to when I took it over from Liron. And then it's like only when it's been sitting for a while and like building up that audience over time where you're like, oh, wow, these did significantly well. I attribute it to and not that I don't want to take anyone else's work and like diminish it by saying this. And I'm not trying to do that, but I'll just talk about my specific intentions with my episodes, and each host has had their own creative freedom with this. All right. My specific intention was to treat it like, okay, why is someone listening to Tube Talk? Well, it is a YouTube podcast. They're trying to get YouTube advice, but they have more time than someone watching a 10-minute vidIQ video. And so instead of in a 10-minute vidIQ video, we actually try to cram a lot in there. So we'll cover a lot of different topics. Why do we do that? Well, retention and all that stuff. On a podcast, people are a little more patient. They're listening in a different environment, and they do want more nuanced discussion around one thing. And that's what I always try to do. And there were times we had guests where, they were going to talk about what they were going to talk about. And it's like, all right, how do we fit that into this kind of bubble of like YouTube advice? And there were times where it was more like, hey, we don't really have a guest this week. Let's just dive in on this discussion. And those did very well. Even the guest conversation did well too. But like really when we just focused on something specific, especially if it was topical, that always performed well. So if you're still listening from back in those days, thank you. And yeah, that just kind of goes to show with any type of content, it's just about knowing the platform you're on too, just as much as the topics you're discussing. Like, why does someone listen to a podcast versus like the headspace they're in when they watch a YouTube video or a YouTube short, whatever it is?
Absolutely. And the thing is, for those listening, you also might have realized that this episode's coming out late. So to be clear, for those of you watching on YouTube, it will not be edited in the way that it normally is, where it kind of focuses on one person or the other. I don't have time to do that. Ain't nobody got no time for that. Or maybe I'll use the built-in platforms way of doing it. Anyway, the point is, we're a little bit late because of things, but hopefully we'll be back on track next week. So we have a lot of questions, and for those of you that are new to the podcast, whether you're watching on YouTube, which is of course the Boost, or if you're listening to audio, you have ways to contact us and ask us questions. If you're on the audio podcast, every single show note at the very bottom of the audio podcast, it says click here to text message us, and we're going to go through those first. We have 3 of those, and then we have a bunch of emails, which we'll get into in a minute. So, first one up, you're going to have to be Jen for all of these. Just understand that. You're going to have to be Jen.
It's a shame about Jen.
I know. It is a shame about. Rest in peace. Hey, Travis and Jen, big fan. So you're Jen now, so, congratulations.
A little confusing.
You have a fan now. You didn't have a couple minutes ago. Okay. A few months ago, I posted a video that went pretty viral. I uploaded it at 200 subs, and it got 150,000 views in the first month, and is now sitting at 200K. That's amazing, by the way. My channel's name's Space Potato, if you're interested. That's got to be a gaming channel, right? Space Potato?
I'm looking it up now.
Oh, I love this. My question is, what the heck do I do from here? Do I double down and make a follow-up video, or do I just continue making whatever content I want and hope it does good? This is an incredibly good question. Incredibly good question.
If this is the same channel that I've just pulled up, this channel is 5.45K subscribers with 8 videos.
8 videos?
How many views did they say they got?
This one has 200,000, this video.
Okay, this one I'm looking at, the second to last video from 2 months ago is 220,000. This must be the same person. Yeah.
Do you have a lot of shorts?
No shorts at all.
Wow, that's incredible. Okay. So here's the answer that isn't an answer, and Dan, I can't wait to hear what you have to say about this. One of the things we encourage here on this show is to research your content and only do content that you like doing, because if you end up doing something like, for example, we don't know what this video is about compared to the rest of your channel.
I do.
Yeah, but I don't want to know. If it's something that is not A, in line with the rest of your channel, or B, something that you really like doing, then you've actually done yourself some harm. Because the answer to continue the success is to double down on that topic, try to figure out more topics that are like it, and that sort of thing. And if that thing is something you don't like, and I've talked to so many creators that have gone through this, they've made a video that blew up. It was something that they just randomly did, and then they realize that nothing else they do gets the views that one video gets. And I feel bad for them. I'm telling them, like, look, you have a couple things. A, you can unlist the video and start making new stuff. I literally have an email sitting in my inbox where I'm going to have to tell a creator that exact thing, a large creator. Or B, you can start a new channel, I mean, which is never fun, not fun. But the reality is, if it's something that you liked, then this should be easy. Yeah, double down, do more things like it. Super simple. Dan, what do you think?
The crux of the question, just to remind myself, is that they're just trying to figure out where to go from here with this big outlier video. Okay. So basically, like, do you want to know the topic of the channel?
I want to be careful because we don't want to do audits on here. Otherwise we'll never.
I don't want to either.
But yeah. But whatever you think is important.
It's consistent. The channel is like consistently doing the same thing. And I will say it is a gaming channel, and they're playing a very popular game. So it's impressive that a game with such a saturation point, even today, a new channel could get many thousands of views on it. That's something to be proud of. I'm going to caution everybody and say, if this ever happens for you, or if it has happened in the past, maybe you already know this, you are not suddenly guaranteed a certain benchmark of views. For example, we're looking at 220,000 views from 2 months ago. Their next video has 2.8K from a month ago. So that video is not performing as well. And that's not any knock on them at all. They've done nothing wrong. It's that they're continuing to test things. And going from 200,000 views to 2,000 views, I felt this myself. It can be very like discouraging. Like, shoot, I thought I had this figured out. You will never have it figured out, ever.
Yeah.
So get that idea out of your mind. It's really, really important to, like Travis said, focus on the things you enjoy doing, because that's what resonates the most, not only with the audience, but with you. You're supposed to be the one putting out the content for this audience you're building. If you're not enjoying yourself, that's gonna show through in the videos, if you even upload. I've been at a point in times of my content creation journey where I'm like not uploading at all, because I've realized, like, wow, I'm not enjoying this as much as I used to. And I know it's healthy. It's for me to not upload if I'm not going to know what to do. But then it can be difficult to get back into it as well, because you haven't exercised that muscle at all. And you're like, well, okay, I have a craving to make videos. I have some ideas. Is it going to work? You start to get analysis paralysis. So just try and focus on, doing what you enjoy, and understand that YouTube, like, on one single channel, you can make lots of mistakes, and you can always, quote, rebuild. So if you release some videos on a new test run you're doing and they don't do well, and you want to go back to what you're doing before, you can do that. Just it's not made of like fragile glass. Like you can tarnish it all you want. Eventually, you're gonna have more canvas to work with. And you just keep going.
Absolutely. All right, next one up. Hey guys, in a recent podcast, Travis mentioned some phone cameras, in other words, smartphones, in the $150 to $200 range that are better than a GoPro. Can you get into a bit and identify these? I'm interested in checking them out. And then after that, he goes, also another question. I'm presuming that all the work you do is remote from each other, but I'm impressed with how nice and clear the audio sounds, as though Travis, Jen, and Rob are all in the same studio. Could you do an episode where you detail the equipment each of you have to create the podcast and how you sync it all together as very detailed as possible, as we replicate the level of clarity? That's really a great, listen.
Remember when I said people want a deep dive into one specific topic?
Yeah. I mean, we can definitely do that for sure. In this platform, it makes sense. Like, we could do that in a podcast for sure. To answer your first question, there's a lot of different answers here. If you go to Amazon, there's a ton of different smartphones that came out in the last, like, even couple years that have really great cameras. But if you really want to get, like, the best camera, what you do is you buy, what I'm known for on my YouTube channel was Amazon Renewed. So Amazon Renewed is a program on Amazon where they kind of have refurbished phones and stuff. Well, they have refurbished everything, but You can get iPhones that are like iPhone 12s and stuff for pretty cheap, and their cameras are ridiculous. So this was in reference to a creator where we were talking about having multiple camera angles for things, so you didn't have to shoot it and then move the phone or camera and move it. This I said there's you can just put a lot of either action cams or phones, and they're not that expensive anymore, which is true. So that's what they're referring to there. What are your thoughts on that, by the way?
I think a modern phone, like the camera race, I think it's slowed down quite a bit. You know, there's always so much they can do. It feels like when a new phone comes out with cameras, they always increase the megapixels and everything else. I think that what you get to get good video out of a phone, you need good lighting, and I can't understate that enough. You need good lighting, and if you don't have a lighting setup, a lot of people like to use a window as like the light source. And of course, that means you're recording at a certain time of day. Maybe the weather is not cloudy and you're good. Maybe it's too bright. Maybe the sun's beaming in your window too much. So lighting is like a big part of it, because phones, what they like to do. And Travis, I'm not a big phone guy, so correct me if I'm getting that.
No, you're right so far. You're right on.
They love to overcompensate for dark areas, which means you lower the picture quality. I'm not going to get into technical specifics on why that happens. It just lowers the picture quality. A sacrifice has to be made to add light to the photo or the video file. So lighting helps compensate, and the phone gets more to work with, more detail to work with. And that's when you get really nice, crystal clear video from a phone. So yes, certain phones will perform better than others, and I'm sure you could find reviews for different ones. But as I understand it, lighting is going to be like the number one concern if you are shooting primarily on a phone.
100% agree. There are tons of options out there, but look at the Amazon Renewed listing of phones. You'll get some really good options there. But again, also action cams are really good, like the Heroes and stuff like that are really good. Okay, next one. Hey, Travis and Jen, love the advice. I have a question about batch creation. I love this because this is the first time I think we're getting a question about batch creation. I love this. Okay. I only have one time a weekend to create content, and I try to create 4 videos in that time frame to post once a week for the rest of the month. My problem is that some of the videos I try to film on the same weekend, I have to drive to multiple places. That takes a lot of time to get to all the locations, and I end up only getting 2 videos instead of 4. How can I film more videos in the same place? Is there a tool to help with ideas like that? Also, I have found that when I schedule my videos like this, my later videos become irrelevant by the time it's published because the news changes quickly. Should I do shorts during the week to help the relevance while my long form comes out once a week? Sorry for all the questions. Again, love the show. And love the show. Throwback to when you guys started out the podcast was statistically insignificant, which is funny because Jen and I recently talked about some of the inside jokes and things we say, and statistically insignificant is something that we've said on this podcast a couple times. We will continue to say it. Dan has no idea what we're talking about, which is good, which makes it funny. But let's go back to this batch question. They're trying to get out multiple videos during one shoot and traveling. Now, my question is, why do you have to travel to different locations? That I don't understand.
It's weird that it's like topical, but they're also traveling. It's kind of strange. Maybe it's like local stories where things are, hey, they're doing construction on this thing. I don't know.
Well, then the other thing is that they mentioned that by the time the last one comes out, it's irrelevant time-wise.
Yeah.
So what do you think? Should they... Because they're wanting one long form video to come out once a week, which I like that cadence, and then maybe some shorts in between. But is there a place where you might think if it's irrelevant by the time it comes out in 4 weeks, maybe you just do 2 a week and then you just have 2 weeks of off, like every other week? What do you think?
I would say ask your doctor if batch recording is right for you. I'm a little bit worried about, because when they said that it's no longer topically relevant, that worries me a ton for this batch recording strategy, because you were saying to us that you were taking one part of the month to record videos for the entire month, and you happen to be doing videos on topics that are eventually falling out of vogue. That's not great. That tells me that it might be better for you to make one video at the moment you have time with the most topical story that you're going to cover, and release it as fast as you can, because that's what you're competing with. You're competing with people who are covering stuff way faster. This is one of the, how people talk about, oh, well, Moist Critical, he can do whatever he wants. He just turns on his camera and talks. He's still talking about very, very, very recent happenings. He spends a lot of time online. He sees stuff. He develops thoughts. He turns on his camera and he starts talking. And yes, I know he's earned a lot of that success over a long period of time, so he doesn't need super fancy custom thumbnails and things like that. That's not what I'm mentioning here. I'm just saying even he has to have a superpower of some kind, and that is the speed at which he gets stuff out. So I don't know what this channel is. I don't know what they're talking about. I would say batch recording is great if you have more evergreen topics. Gaming channels can get away with this a lot because a lot of times, especially if you're playing older games that are just very popular, like Fortnite, Minecraft, things like that, there's no reason to be on top of things unless you're covering news about those games. So if you're doing a 100 days challenge in Minecraft, well, you can spend a year recording that, unless the game could obviously update to the point where people are like, why don't you have this thing in the game? But anyway, my point is there are more evergreen types of content you can make that are better for batch recording. And if you're doing topical stuff, I'm really stuck on that one point of their message, is that like they're doing things but by the time the video gets posted, people don't care potentially.
Yeah, that's a not a red flag, so to speak, but it's definitely a very important detail that was brought out in this message, and it is something you need to pay attention to. So definitely, you might want to think about a way to either, the short sounds like a great idea, but also maybe releasing those videos just more often. It might mean that 1 month you might have 4 videos, and the last 2 weeks of that month not much comes out. I don't like that idea, but of course maybe you put the shorts there or something. I like to have something constantly coming out, so you're always in the watch history of the viewers. But yeah, it's the traveling part's the thing that keeps tripping me up. Like, why do you have to travel? So I would take a look deeper into that. All right, next one, because we have so many. These are coming to the boost at vidIQ.com. These are the emails we get from y'all. And this is from Adrian. Adrian has emailed us before. It says, hey, hello again, Travis, Jen, and the rest of the team. Thank you so much for answering my questions about shorts and ranking in search. Just to clarify, I'm not trying to get on the podcast more than one time, nor am I trying to get a free shout out or anything. I know I can be quite long-winded, but I guess I just have a lot to say. So I'm going to skip through to his actual question here because there's a bunch of other stuff. But let's go. He goes, okay, here's my idea. Make shorts from my top performing videos, spikes and retention, most replayed parts of the video, and link the original video in the recommended video section of the short with the idea that shorts represent the best part of my longs. I also want to make sure that I leave every short open-ended and trying to give the viewer a reason to click on the video, pretty much making them hooks. My goal is to not only funnel clicks to my long videos, but to get in the viewers' recommendations and homepage, and obviously getting more opportunities of that. I don't see any reasons why shorts would hurt my longs. My primary focus is long form videos. Just want to give it a shot and some experiment a bit. What Jen said hasn't left the back of my head, so I'm doing this all with no expectation of wild success or anything. What's interesting is Jen is doing a shorts experiment on her channel. We'll have her talk about that next time she comes on because she has some interesting takeaways. And we've just recently started doing some shorts here on the Boost channel. So from the podcast. So Dan, we might be vidIQ as the channel might be one of the longest topics that we keep kind of talking about every so often on all of YouTube, because we were talking about shorts before it was official. We were talking about when it was still being tested. Like Rob was on top of that, and you've definitely had a lot to do with the content regarding shorts. So this is the strategy they're using. Essentially, TLDR is they want to use their shorts to get people to view their longs. I have thoughts about this, but what are your thoughts about that?
I've always said this only works. I'll put only with an asterisk because everybody on YouTube has a different experience. But in my very narrow view of this when I've seen this work, the only time I've seen it work is when somebody makes the short still feel like it stands on its own. Like, so if I choose not to watch the long form video, I still got a full experience. I'm putting quotes around that, full experience from watching the short. And the example I've been using lately is a channel called That's a Bad Idea. It's this comedy duo that I absolutely love. They're hilarious. And these guys primarily, from my perspective, make shorts, but they always link, not always, but a lot of times they link a long form version of it. And their long form videos are only like double the length of the shorts, right? Like they make 2 to 3 minute comedy sketches and then they break them up sometimes in like multiple parts. But even if a short is 2 parts, you can watch part 2 before you watch part 1, and they still do such a good job of making you feel like you got a full experience on either side of it. Sometimes I see a part 2 and then I see the part 1, and if I'm just scrolling through shorts, and I'm not confused by that. I just kind of get it. Maybe it's because I'm now a fan of theirs, so it's kind of easier for me to like give them that leeway, but their views speak for themselves. I recommend just looking up this channel if you're interested. That's a Bad Idea, just spelled out like commonly. That's not, no funny business there. That's a Bad Idea, all words broken up. And you'll see what I'm talking about. You'll see their long form views are doing very well, very healthy. Their shorts do very well. And they are advertisers to the long form video because they do link. They use that thing to link to the long form video. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But they don't tell me to do that. They don't say full video in the thing, which you can do, but they don't need to do that. They all stand on their own. And I was curious enough that once YouTube finally pushed me with their long videos, I clicked on it. I'm like, I remember part of this. I've seen part of this, but that's 2 minutes. I know I only saw 45 seconds. So they were memorable too. It helps that, I remembered like that specific, that scene and everything. I mean, the thumbnail, I'm like, oh yeah, that's the thing. So I think what they're doing is cool. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt without knowing what the channel is and assume that they are doing this. They are taking and making like these shorts their own individual experiences, because nothing bothers me more than when I see a shorts channel saying, what am I doing wrong? And I click and it's like, hey, I did this thing in a video and you should just go watch the video. No, like billboards like this on shorts do not work. At least I've not seen any work.
No, right.
But yeah.
I love that. And it's really the one thing that we talk about here on this podcast all the time is obsess over the viewer. What are they looking for? Where are you meeting them? What platform, what type of content are you meeting them? Are you meeting them in short form content? Are you meeting them in longer form content? Where are you meeting them? And wherever it is, meet or exceed that expectation. It's the best way to succeed. Mm-hmm. Next one that came into the boost at vidIQ.com is from Frank the Dank, who emailed us a couple weeks ago. Hi again, Travis and Jen. First of all, thank you for your insight on my channel identity crisis. Because of your input, I've decided the name Frank the Dank shall live on and hopefully become one day known for its producing great nostalgic retro gaming content. One day. Okay. In the meantime, I've gotten into yet another heated debate with my very worst critic, myself. I was looking back at my old videos, kind of seeing what I've learned and how I've grown. I made a couple of observations that instantly put me into a state of anxious indecision. Primarily, my original idea wasn't retro gaming. It was Minecraft and other random Let's Play content. Well, isn't it perfect that you're here, Dan? Isn't it absolutely perfect? Because I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts on this. So my earlier catalog doesn't make sense. I'm going to skip a little bit down. My question is, should I leave those old videos on the channel or erase them forever and hide their shame? Most of them pulled single digits at best and got age restricted real quick, so it's not much of a loss.
Wow.
On the flip side, if I ever had real fans, real Frank the Dank enthusiasts, if you will, would they go back and watch the cringe history I've left behind? Personally, I hate to erase history when history is real embarrassing, but it might break tradition and bust out the big eraser. Sorry for the long email. I understand it doesn't make the cut. I'm a long-winded guy. I really love the Q&A approach the last couple of weeks and can't get enough of it. I love it. You guys have completely reignited my passion for my channel. I love that. That's fantastic. Okay.
Yeah.
Say all the things you have to say.
I got stuff to say. Their instincts are spot on. If one of those videos if they had said, it's just a shame because one of them has 1 million views and it keeps bringing in new people, I would have said we're in a dicey situation because now people are expecting more of that. However, we're not in that situation. You told us, my old videos, not only do I think they're cringe, but they only got a few views anyway. Perfect. Here's what you do. If you're worried about the history of your channel being gone forever, you can put these videos in a playlist, unlist all the videos, but make the playlist listed in your playlists. And if you ever want to point to it for any reason, you can totally do that. And the people who really, the true fans, the ones really digging through your channel, they could find that playlist on the playlist tab. And you could just call it like, classic Frank the Dank, or, whatever it is, like legacy content. And let people explore that if they want to. And that way it can't bring in any new viewers based on getting discovered in browse or search or anything. And it's still there for your audience to enjoy if they really do want to go back and you're really concerned about keeping that history. I was ruthless with my channel. I've always been this way. If I feel like something is not good anymore, it didn't get a lot of views, and I'm like personally embarrassed by it, I just get rid of it. Because to me, like, I am a media preservation guy, but when it comes to stuff I make, I'm like, I feel like I have the right to just kind of like remove that if I want to. And if it's not getting views anyway, I don't think I'm hurting anybody. If it is getting views, I'm a little more careful. Like, maybe I'll do the playlist strategy, but when stuff isn't getting views and maybe I was just more embarrassing back then, why keep it? Oh, who cares? But there are creators who are very proud of themselves for keeping all their old content, and that's valid too. All of it's valid. But maybe you didn't know that trick where you can unlist videos and put them on a playlist that actually still shows up in your playlists.
That's actually a brilliant trick. I'm aware of that, but I think I forgot about it because, to be honest, while I've never done that myself, you may have mentioned this to me years ago, and I've just completely forgotten about it. And it's a great middle ground. It's a great way to preserve and not feel like it could be hurting your channel. Because again, like we talked about earlier, if you have a video that's not related to the content you're making moving forward, and it's getting like tons of views, it's going to be linking your channel to that type of content when it starts to progressively show your stuff to more people. So that's where the danger comes in. But if it's not doing that much, it's not hurting anything. So you could have it there. If you think about it, you can look back at Mr. Beast videos, and they're still there. So and it's obviously not hurting his growth. All right, let's get this next one. This one's also sent into the boost at vidIQ.com. This one's by Corey. It's a long email, so I'm going to try to skip through some of it. But hello, Jen and Travis, and Rob, if he's making an appearance when this is answered.
They got it all wrong.
I know, right? They 3 strikes, and now you're out now. I always enjoy watching your videos because not only are they educational, but entertaining as well. My name's Corey. I started in April 2023, and I created a channel, Grumpy Guy's Garage. It's an automotive niche, and I focus on highlights from car cultural events, which is cool. Out of the gate, I have some of the newbie issues that are bound to happen as when people start out. However, in 2023, in July, I had what I consider a viral moment, reaching 14K views. The rest of the view was kind of up and down with some not so great numbers and some videos hitting between 5 and 1,200 views. For context, today, I have less than 250 subs. So that's a lot of views for a 250 sub channel. Let's just start there. Then in December, I posted a video that went even higher. Currently, that video has 18,000 views and is getting about 3 views a day. When we got into mid-December, I was feeling pretty good and thought I had a community, and the video was showing at least 1,000 return viewers when that metric ended after 90 days. However, things aren't that rosy. I began posting bi-weekly during the winter and posted a second video in the middle of December. It started out well, reaching about 5,000 views, and then again, the 1,000 returning before it trailed off. Christmas Eve, this is more kind of like specific. To say I've spent too many hours looking at analytics over this issue is an understatement. I tried to look at it every way I can. Here's what I know. During the period of April and December of 2023, 42% of my impressions were on TVs, while about 25% of my impressions were on mobile phones. I want to talk about that here in a minute because that's really interesting. However, this is flipped in December on Christmas Eve to 41% on mobile phones and 26% on TVs. That almost never happens, by the way. Unfortunately, my AVD on mobile phones is about half what it was on TV. Yes, which I understand. Videos are generally 7 to 13 minutes. I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it seemed like there was a change in the algorithm. So I'm at a crossroads trying to figure out how to proceed. Is there something I can do to increase AVD on mobile phones? Okay, so ultimately what this comes down to is it's funny because I had this exact conversation with, ironically, a car channel, one of my larger car channel creators that I work with, because we were seeing an increase in their viewership on televisions because the type of content they put out is very suited for watching on a television. And what's interesting here is, they had the majority of their, what Corey is saying, that the majority of the impressions for the longest time were on TV, which is not normal. Mobile is normally number one for most niches, but I'm starting to see, like in the car space, that seems to be kind of changing. But he's saying in one day it just flipped. I don't know what to say about that because that seems very odd. But I think ultimately there's not anything you can do specifically about that. So what he's asking is there a way he can increase the average view duration on phones? Well, and Dan, while you think about this, I'm going to give kind of my 2 cents on this. First of all, I like the idea of being on TVs because your AVD goes up. People tend to watch longer, which means if you're monetized, more opportunities for ads to be placed, and just generally a better connection with your audience. But if you're getting mostly on mobile, which is what most of us do, number one, before you hit publish, you should be watching your videos on your phone to ensure that everything looks right. You can see everything. You maybe didn't put text that's maybe too small on a phone or whatever it is, and make sure everything is framed in a way that looks good on a phone. So that's something that almost no one does, but you really should in order to get past this kind of hoop. Number two, when you're on your phone, and everyone's a little different, but typically your time is limited to watching one, batch of content. Think of it as maybe someone's watching you on a lunch break, or someone's on a bus going to work or to school or something. Or you just have a couple minutes here and there. How are you hooking that person really fast? Was it last week? No, it's in the upcoming video. So this week, on the vidIQ channel. So depending on when you're listening to this, it's already up. But this week, if you're listening to this podcast right away, we're doing a video about intros and how important intros are and how to, what I call, buy time. So watch that video. Also, as a side note, on this exact podcast a couple of weeks ago, Jen and I talked about potentially putting a video that's completely unedited on the Boost channel so you guys can see how ridiculous it is for us to make a video. That also comes out this week because it's the unedited version of the intro video. So this week, you'll be able to go on the Boost channel, watch the unedited shenanigans that Jen and I go through, and then watch the edited video. But all that to say, you're buying time from your viewer. Every time you do something, you get a hook. You buy them for an extra couple seconds. So how do you continually hook someone from putting their phone down? Because it's too easy to do that. It's like, oh, I looked at this thing. I'm interested for 2 minutes. Let me put this phone down. When you're in front of your television, like, you just kind of hit pause, you go grab something, you go sit back down on the couch, you're chilling. Like, you have a lot more time, a lot more tolerance. But if you're holding your phone, like, what's going to make me continue to hold my phone? Thoughts, Dan?
I think looking up like some videos on storytelling and opening different like story loops and things, what curiosity loops, that could help, because that is what keeps people engaged, right? Like just telling a good story. If you can incorporate some kind of B plot in your videos, that can help a ton. Just something that you keep kind of referring back to every so often, that's going to pay off at the end of the video. Make sure this stuff pays off too. Like those are just kind of like the general tactics for, people who are watching at all. I've never really considered the difference between TV and mobile enough. I am benefiting in different ways from both on my own channels and endeavors. Like if I post a super, super, super long video, like obviously people are watching on TV. Obviously the watch time's a lot better. If I post really short video, I don't consider like, oh, are people going to watch this on mobile versus TV? I just kind of post it, and I respect that I'm kind of building a pretty diverse audience. People who watch on TV, people who watch on their phone. So those are like my initial thoughts on it. I did pull up the channel because I'm just really curious, and I know we don't want to like do a deep dive. We're not doing audits. I don't want people to email you and be like, "Oh, can you audit my channel next?" We're not doing that. However, I will say there is quite a difference in their content, where like the views on their most popular videos happen to be like titles that are really small and easy to digest, and the less popular videos have very long titles that kind of put first like the least relevant information, and then later it gets more relevant. So like they're talking about the specific event they were at, and then like maybe the car stuff is second part of the title, and it's very long. And I just think when you're at a specific event, there's already a problem, because I'm like, I didn't get to go to this event, and I'm just more interested in the cars. I don't care where this event took place necessarily. I want you to talk about it in the video, but it doesn't have to be in the title. I'm like, oh, I wonder what happened at this like Disney car show specifically. Like, no, I said Disney because it's not on the channel. I'm trying to think of a random thing. Like, give me the substance that I'm interested in. As someone who wasn't really attending this event, I'm just a car guy, is like, just show me the cool cars and talk about that. And that's what the other titles did so brilliantly. It didn't mention any specific like, thing that I missed that I had to be there for. It was just like, hey, like, we're looking at these specific things, and it's a very short, easy to read title. So I do think maybe that's part of this discussion. If someone is watching on mobile, maybe they're more of your diehard fans, and they're the people who it almost doesn't matter what your title is. They're just going to watch you because they've just grown to like you. But the other videos probably reached a new audience, and it reached a new audience because they were easy to understand, and that audience happened to be on mobile because a lot of people watch YouTube on their phones.
That's brilliant. That's a great breakdown. And it's, again, the understanding what the video is about before you ever click it is so critical into getting people to actually consume your content, because they have to know what they're getting into. One thing I've said a long time ago, and I'll say time and time again, the greatest resource we have is time. So if you want me to exchange my time, which I'll never get back, for the time to watch your video, you better give me something good, or at least let me know what I'm getting into.
Yeah.
Next email, I started to read, I was like, this is from Kali, but when I read the whole name, I kind of laughed. Kali Flower. Okay, this one's from Kali Flower.
Okay.
Hey, Travis and Jen. Love the content. So happy you share so much advice for small channels, as I only started 2 to 3 weeks ago. By the way, a lot of the emails we get from people are people that have started their YouTube channel within the last month or less. I would love for you either leave a comment here on the video, the YouTube video of this podcast, or send us a message. Just let us know how you found the podcast. Was it the audio podcast? Was it the YouTube channel? Was it the main vidIQ channel? Whatever it was, send us a message. I would love to see. We're trying to figure out some things here, and it would be great to understand how you found this. If you've only been starting for 2 or 3 weeks, my curiosity is how'd you find this podcast? So at the very least, reply and just let us know that. Okay. So far, my content has been about the draft format on a card game, Magic the Gathering. Without getting into too much in-depth into the YouTube meta around this content, it is just hour-long VODs of gameplay or deep dive strategy talks. Oh, okay, cool. I'm almost done making a highly edited 25-minute video of a draft I did. I trimmed all the fat and added my own comedic flair. I also tried changing the usual thumbnail formula for an MTG draft video, but it's taking me 2 to 3 weeks to make, and I'm worried that I will find a reason no one else does, because it doesn't work and takes too long when you can just post around 6 VODs at the same time. What are your thoughts? If I do what others do, I won't get the views, but I feel like 2 to 3 weeks is too long for this type of content, and audiences may not want something that's this different. So this is great. I love questions like this, because Dan, it's not the like, how do I get more views and subscribers? We get great questions here on this podcast. And this one really makes you think. The question is, if I'm making something that is very rare, are there people out there that will watch it, or is the reason that it doesn't exist on YouTube because no one will watch it, right? And you never know until you go and try it. If you're the first one to try something on YouTube, first of all, it's very rare for that's even possible because everything's been done on YouTube. But you think, oh, I found this hole in a niche. The hole may exist because no one wants to watch it, or the hole may exist because no one's ever thought of it.
Right.
2 weeks is a long time to put into a video. Once you do that, the one thing you are exchanging is the chances that if this is a 1 of 10, that's great, it worked out, it was worth it. But if this is a 10 of 10 video, in other words, a video that doesn't do well, you've lost all the time you could have put out a couple of decent videos that might have gotten you more views over that time. So you're swinging the bat hard every single time. But if you know the content is good and you know people will like it, then I'm always up for like giving a little extra sauce on it. Maybe try to figure out a way to get it down to a week. 2 to 3 is a long time. But there are people who, animation channels are that exact thing, where you see maybe once a month, once every 2 months. But some of the good ones get millions of views because like it was worth it. What are your thoughts on this, Dan?
I would say, as someone who's made very long content at the risk of it not doing well, take the risk with the understanding that you might feel some pain. You know, it might not pay off, and it's no reflection on you. You're doing exactly what you should be doing, which is taking risks, because not enough creators do. A lot of creators hey, credit to them. They'll take our advice and they'll say double down on things that are working, and that's all they'll do ever again because they're afraid of getting low views. Get the low views if that's what's going to happen, and hope for the best. The biggest thing you can do when you're covering something that is very niche but you feel like it's valuable is ask yourself, when you discovered this for yourself, what made you excited, right? And find that bridge between you and this interest that you have and the casual player of the game to try, because we're talking about a game, Magic the Gathering, like find the interest of the casual player and like try to like tap into that. The thing that got you interested might get them interested. So when I say this, what I'm specifically talking about are the title and the thumbnail of the video, because that's the make or break. Like, how do you get someone to click on something if you feel like you're reinventing the wheel? And it's because you still have to bridge the gap between the people who are really interested in MTG content and the people who have just never considered this thing you're about to show them. And you need to be like, hey, this is like a hidden strategy you need to try. Or like sometimes we do that. Like we will talk about one of our least popular topics on the main channel is the YouTube community tab, because people do not see the value in it. And depending on what your goals are, it might not be valuable for you. But we know if we title a video 10 ways to get more engagement on the community tab, relatively speaking, nobody, quote unquote, is going to watch it, because people are like, I don't use that. I don't like that. I don't get why I need that. So we always approach it from the perspective of, you should be using this hidden YouTube feature. And then we respect the audience by when they get in there. We're like, hey, listen, like this thing that you're probably not using has actually these benefits you never considered. And we approach it with them in mind, of like the people we have to convince them a little bit to watch. We don't spend too much time apologizing for making the video, but we do try to respect the fact that people are clicking on this because we kind of promised a hidden secret. And then it's something they're like, the community tab. Like they shouldn't have to open the box and see like a turd inside to know that like they were duped. it's not a turd. You need to put your glasses on. It's actually really valuable advice. You just hadn't considered it for yourself before. So sorry for the analogy.
No, I love it. I think that's great.
I respect that everyone wears glasses, so I apologize for the crude analogy.
Yeah, I wear glasses now. Just because I'm old. I think that was great. You crushed that. I don't even need to add anything to it. I think the fact that you can lean on the things we already do on the channel, and where we have meetings every week where we talk about different things that are going on in the videos and stuff. So just know that the answer that was given is based off of not just doing the videos, but like people that are very smart at this sitting there and grinding our brains at like, okay, well, how does this work? So I love that answer. All right, another one. We still got a lot to go. Hi, Travis and Jen. I'm enjoying the new format tremendously and have a couple questions for you. Well, listen, I love that you love that. Okay, number one. What do you see are the differences between a podcast and a live stream? Okay, we're going to talk
now we're getting kind of meta here.
God. We're going to get very meta here. I don't mind answering this because I have a lot of thoughts about it. Okay, in the challenges of being a small YouTube channel, you talked, which is one of our podcast episodes, you talked about growing the channel with the podcast. But what do you think are the differences? I've been doing daily live streams with daily topics within my niche, and I tend to see the content of both podcasts and live streams are essentially the same. One is a live format and the other is probably an edited format. With respects to the comments from the vidIQ Santa, I tend to agree. By the way, the vidIQ Santa is the one you very well know. Can you guess without me even saying who it is?
Is it Old Man Gibb?
It is indeed. I tend to agree. I've been doing my channel for 4 years and I've produced over 600 videos with only 2K subs. I think if I was doing a channel about a passion, I might have burnt out on it by now. Instead, my channel's about what I do professionally, coffee, which I've been toiling at for over 20 years. In this case, I know. You should have said something like boiling. That'd been funny.
Well, I just mean they're so negative about it. Like,
right?
I'm not passionate about it. This is my job, and I'm toiling away. I feel bad for them.
It's coffee. In this case, it's comparatively easy for me to come up with topics and video ideas, but it's because it's my profession rather than my passion. There's a certain disconnect from the subject matter, which makes it simpler to continue without getting burnt out on the subject. That's interesting.
Wow.
Oh, I love that sentence. I love that sentence.
Really?
But in this case, he seems to actively dislike those people. Yeah. Okay. So back to his question. What are the differences between a podcast and a live stream? So a number of things. Number one, we will at some point, at least the idea is, and I don't know what the execution is going to be, but it's always been my plan to live stream the podcast recording. So, and I think you're only talking about on YouTube. There's an obvious difference with the audio podcast because there is no live audio podcast thing. That's like radio or something, right? So that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about video. So in the case of like the format, the quote difference is that there is an exchange of, I don't want to say energy, but obviously when you're live, you can communicate with your audience. So you can't do that in a podcast. So there is no audience. That's the main difference. The subject matter can be exactly the same. If we get around to live streaming the recording of this podcast, I have ideas. And the idea would be, first of all, it would only be for certain members. It would not be a live podcast. At least that's my initial thoughts. And I still have to figure this out over the course of the coming months and whatnot. But we would interact with the audience before and after, but not during. Because the podcast, when we're doing a podcast here, you got to remember, this is not just video, it's also audio. There's a lot, actually, currently, there are more audio listeners than there are video listeners. They're starting to get kind of close, but there's still more audio. So the point is, we have to do everything remembering that a large portion of this audience is audio only. So we can't do too many visually specific things. I would love to be able to do more screen shares and stuff. But I want to make sure that I'm honoring both platforms in some way. So that's the big difference for us. I think on the main vidIQ channel, we don't currently treat our live streams like podcasts, although that may change with some of the things I know that, Dan has in mind, which by the way, Dan's kind of in charge of that stuff now, which is weird to say, but it's true. So what do you think, looking at it from the vidIQ, the main channel's standpoint of live streams versus podcasts versus the things you want to accomplish on the channel?
I don't want to like take this person's like question and curiosities and like soapbox too much, but like I'm having my own kind of conundrums about this because it's a question of, if it's too similar, why do both? Why not just try and merge the two? And like you said, the biggest difference is that the live thing, you have a chat with you and you're likely engaging with them that's why you're live, because you wanted them there. So why do you want them there? To engage with them. But then you kind of, the audio listeners and the people watching after the fact are not getting that benefit because they weren't there, and so it feels like they're part of an event they're missing. They're like looking through a window in time, and they weren't really. It's not the full experience. You had to be there live for that. So I mean, it's just kind of like, in my mind, I have to separate those two things in order to justify doing both. So to separate them, it basically means I'm going to, each one has its own intention. And maybe a recorded podcast has it's the intention of sticking to one specific topic. With the live stream, you are a little more loose because you are live. And maybe that's the difference. I don't know. Like, I think if this is a conundrum for them, they should probably try and figure that out for themselves. What do you feel like is the crux of their question? Because I could talk about the main channel, but I just want to make sure I'm like,
I think they just are just curious about the difference. I don't know that it's super important to figure out like the exact answer, but I think also looking for what our thoughts are on it.
Okay, so I'll tell you about the reason you might see, if you watch the Tuesday live stream specifically, the reason you might see this change. This is kind of an exclusive because this is something we're testing, and we don't know if we're going to stick to it. We don't know what it's going to become, but we have been talking about the value of the Tuesday live stream. Now, if you don't know, the Tuesday live stream is us, a group of us here at the company. We get together and we talk about just people's YouTube channels by bringing them on screen and saying, this person's doing this. That we call them channel audits or channel reviews. This person's doing this right. They could improve these things. And the way it works is it's almost like a raffle system. You put your channel in at the beginning of the show, and then we randomly pick them throughout the day, and then we clear that raffle out every single week. And so what we've kind of learned over the last several years of doing this, and this is just my takeaways, my personal view on the matter, is that type of content is really good while it's live. We get many hundreds of concurrent viewers. But when we try to do live streams that are more like this, Q&A focused, topic focused, the live stream concurrent numbers go down, and significantly. More than half of our viewership does not show up for that. Why? Because their channel isn't going to get on the screen like in our other live stream. So already a bunch of them are like, well, I can't participate, so I don't want to be part of it. When really we're answering their questions, like we're live for a reason. So it's always been a tougher sell to get people to come to those. However, there's a value in doing that without the channel audit portion. And it's that those videos, when they're not live streams anymore, when they become VODs, they have a much better chance of getting views after the fact. As long as we did a good title, a good thumbnail, and we have a good engaging topic. If you go to our live stream tab and you click most popular, you will see that like the top row is all streams that were not channel reviews. And one of them has over 100,000 views. This was a live stream. We generally get, after about a week, 12,000 views on an old live stream. And that includes the concurrent viewers and everything. This thing is still getting views today, 150,000 views now or something like that. And it was about a topic, and it was a really good discussion. We had a great guest, and it just worked. And so we want to try more of that. And what that means is we're shifting the goal away from live concurrent viewer numbers, which are fun in the moment. And what we feel like might be more valuable are the views we get after the fact. And I don't know if that answers anyone's question about the matter, but that is something we're going to try and see what happens. And we'll know we were successful if those numbers do go up. So if we're benchmarking at 12,000 views for a live stream like a week after it's been done, or 11,000, whatever it's at, we're hoping after a week to see that number higher on the VOD for this new format we're going to test for a bit.
I love that. It's cool to be able to hear some of the things that we've been talking about in meetings and stuff, and I love that you shared that. All right, Kyle's up. He says, thanks, hey, Travis and Jen. I've been loving the podcast, even though I can't always keep up with it. Usually watch it a day or two late. Your deeper dive into topics on the than that the main channel can't provide is always nice for someone like myself, who's been on the platform for years. My question is based sort of off my previous statement. I've been making videos on YouTube since 2010. Wow. Dang. Off and on, and I never really took anything seriously until this past year. I've certainly been seeing the growth, but I have an issue of posting consistently. I've been exploring what the issue might be for months and may have come across an issue causing the hiccup. I have the knowledge of a creator who's been on the platform for 14 years, but the hands-on experience of a creator who's been on the platform for a year or two. Because of this, I feel like I'm holding my videos too high of a standard and don't leave much room to have fun and experiment. What steps can I do to shift the overthinking mindset to a fun experimenting mindset?
This is me. This is like
Is
literally,
it you?
especially like a couple years ago. Yeah, this is exactly what I thought. It started back in like 2010, 2011, and didn't take it very seriously, just goofing around, and managed to grow a little bit and didn't understand why or how. Thought I did not. And then later on, after I actually took it more seriously, the growth spiked. But I didn't have, like they said, the hands-on experience to understand how to capitalize on it in certain aspects, and ultimately, like they said, have fun experimenting, because you start to like get really analytical about it and really like you're overthinking everything. I overthought everything. I don't want to relate to this person too much because I don't know what's in their head, but like this resonates with me a lot. Anyway, sorry to interrupt.
No, I love that. Keep going. Talk about it.
I'm not going to say that I've nailed this for myself in terms of mindset and what, how to overcome this. I think it's a constant kind of struggle. I think a lot of creators, whether or not they have this similar experience, will relate to this. Every time that I've finally shaken the rust off in these moments where I'm like, I'm not uploading because I'm paralyzed with like indecision. Once I shake the rust off and just post something, I don't regret it. Even if it doesn't do super well, understand that, especially if you've taken a break, like it's any amount of views start to look really good. So yeah, like I took a break recently and I posted a video it was a very simple video, very short video, and it got more views than the last like 4 or 5 I had posted. Significantly more views. This is on a channel I'm not going to like try and drive traffic to. It's just one of my own experiments. So it did very, very well. And I looked at, it's like looking in the mirror and just going, why didn't you just do more of that? Like I didn't overthink this video. It was just a funny thing I thought I had in my head, and I'm like, I'm going to try that. And I did, and it worked. So I don't always have those little nuggets, but when I do, I shouldn't overthink it. I should just post it, because what is the worst that's going to happen? If it doesn't get the views, who cares? Nobody cares. People, the only people who might care are potential sponsors, and you can't,
yeah, exactly.
You cannot hold yourself to that. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, really, the channels I respect the most are the ones that try and like just provide value to their audience and monetize through like having just a solid Patreon offering or YouTube membership offering. And the sponsorships will come if they do, right? It gives them complete creative freedom. But as soon as you start to like get into taking sponsorships and larger deals like that, suddenly you're looking at the numbers a lot more closely. I'm speaking from experience here too. Like, suddenly everything matters. If a video doesn't perform, and it doesn't, but in your mind, you're like, oh my God, a potential sponsor is going to look at the front page of my channel and see this just turd just sitting there. The second turd reference today. I apologize. And
I love it.
It's not that deep. It's not that big of a deal. Like, especially if you're not going for that type of if those aren't your goals, that's even better. Just try stuff. Just have fun. Like, authenticity keeps coming up a lot lately. It's because people are just like, I just want to watch someone being real. I don't want to watch people tricking me. We've had advice shoved. I'm really soapboxing here. We have had advice shoved at us for the last, like, how many years of people getting on podcasts and stuff and going, this is what you have to do to get this many views. And if you're not taking thumbnails seriously, then you're dumb. And just people just really like cutting you down for not like taking YouTube super, super serious. What happened? Suddenly everyone's making content saying, gosh, everything looks the same on YouTube lately. All these big creators just copying each other. And now that we start to get more authentic content coming out, and that's trending, people are like, wow, suddenly YouTube's like, all these people are just talking about their experiences. Look how many views they're getting. This is nuts. It's always going to be this tug of war, but like, that's what happens when, people are just passionate about something and they talk about it and they just make content about it and they just do what they do. They're not overthinking anything. They do a decent title and thumbnail that explains the content. It's not super professionally well made, the thumbnail or anything like that, and they just talk and they do their thing and they get views, and now people are craving that, so was that anything for anybody?
No,
I don't know,
that's
but
fantastic.
That's what's in my mind all the time.
It's important to understand how to grow and have fun at the same time on YouTube, and that's what I think Dan just kind of explained, is that because if you're not having fun, it just becomes another job, and sometimes not even a better paying job than the one you already have. All right, another one. I think what's going to happen here, Dan, because we are deep into this podcast and we still got a ton of questions to go. I think what we're going to have to do is we'll do a couple more, then we'll save the rest for next week when Jen comes back. All right, this one's from Corbin. It says, hello, the Boost Boosters. Now, that is a joke based on the fact that we don't know what to call our viewers.
Oh, okay. I feel included, as I was going to say, because it was the first one that wasn't specifically named.
Yeah. Like, finally, you're talking to Dan.
Yeah.
I'm a small channel that covers tabletop role-playing games that aren't Dungeons & Dragons called Awkward GM Corbin. I started the channel because most people know what Dungeons & Dragons are, sure, But if I start listing off games like Curseborn, Changeling, The Lost, Stars Without Numbers, and so on, most people aren't going to know what they are. I agree with this. The goal of the channel is to help introduce people to these underrepresented tabletop games. That's amazing. I feel like this issue is one a lot of people who review channels encounter a lot. You either cater to the popular trending games that people already have opinions on, or you try a hidden gem that not many people are going to be curious about to click the video. How can you shift a channel's perception from a trend follower to a trendsetter? I've tried redoing my thumbnails and title design to be more enticing, but I've had mixed success. Originally, I had titled videos covering non-D&D games such as Beyond D&D in hopes of attracting Dungeons and Dragon players who wanted to try new games. I changed Beyond D&D to Getting Started, and I seem to have got a lot more traction with people who want to know how to get started with a new game. To help my audience understand what games I'll be covering more often, I'll often post a title with a subtitle that says superhero role-playing game, for example. I use thumbnail testing to cover possible incomes when I'm losing my identifiable thumbnail format. Let's see. Any advice would be appreciated. Am I going in the right direction with my experimenting? Is there something I may have missed? And then he gives a whole bunch of like screenshots of like his channel and all these other things. Really interesting stuff. So this is a great question because there are, and it seems it's not always just gamers, but I do notice it happens a lot more to gamers than other niches that I come across, where you want to cover something, it just doesn't have a huge audience. So you have to try to kind of not trend jack specifically, but name jack a larger game or something in order to get the eyes on your content. So I would say video games have the same situation as this board game. What would you do in that case? Or what have you seen that's been done that's been successful?
So I had a similar thing with a video game. Someone contacted me and said, will you play my game in your channel? And I look at the game like, this looks right up my alley, but it's one that no one's ever heard of before, in my opinion. A couple YouTubers had covered it, but none of them had really taken off. And so what I did is I did a search for because I'm really trying not to talk about my channel specifically too much. Again, there's a reason for that. I don't like to take traffic that wouldn't be interested in it and drive a bunch over to the channel. Also, it's just nice to have a space of my own. Anyway, I'll just be vague and say this game was easy to describe without saying the title of the game. And so what I did is went to search and described the game and found an outlier video or two. And I'm like, that is an interesting premise to a way I could play this game. And so I used a similar title structure and I played this new game in a way that had been done before successfully with a different game. And boom, 100,000, 200,000 views, whatever it was. I'm like, hey, that was awesome, you know? And I'm not saying that it'll exactly work for this creator in the same way, looking at their channel just in the background, but like one thing they should be trying is, one thing you said was like compare it to other games that people have heard of. Well, D&D is like a good start, but even more so, I would say something else they could try on top of that is try to talk about your experience with one of these unheard of games. If no one, quote, nobody's ever heard of this game before, then that's okay. That can be a strength as well. You're reviewing these games, you said. So talk specifically about your experience playing the game. The most brutal RPG I've ever played. You know, something like that. And you could put the title of the game in the description, and you could talk about what the game is called in the video, and transcripts and stuff will help with SEO in that regard. If you want the very few people who know about it to like search for it, that'll still help. But ultimately, you were trying to get new viewers in, and you're trying to basically convince them to play something they haven't heard of before. So you have to approach it from their perspective. And you're like, what did I like about this game? Well, it was brutal. It was so hard, or it was so funny, or whatever. Like, this RPG does not take itself seriously. Like, that could be a title. And like, you could be in the thumbnails making a facial reaction to it. You know, and then maybe it's there, you're holding it up or something. Like, it could still be present, but like you are titling and pitching this video as your experience with this game, and you're respecting that, hey, it doesn't even matter what it's called, it's just cool and you should check it out. So that would be my approach, because that was my approach with that video game I was talking about, where I respected the fact that the audience is never going to search for it until it gets popular. And therefore, I need to approach it from a different angle. So, hey, it's a game about this, and it's really blank, you know? Like, I'm just trying to get people to understand the video without having to have the context of the game it was about.
I love that. It's great. And it does apply to other niches as well. But in this particular case, we're talking about board game. I think board games, video games have so many things in common because there are the indie games, there are the big games, and you can directly apply this knowledge and this information to your situation. So hopefully that helps a little bit. But worst case scenario, there's another aspect of this that we could look at that applies to a lot of things, including like this YouTube channel, which is it's not necessarily how to get so many views, is like to get the right views. And your core audience might be smaller, but they might be tighter niche and tighter connected to you, which there's a lot of value in that. We can talk about that another time. I'm looking over the emails. Looks like we have 2 more that are from last week. Everything else that's come in has come in this past week. So we're going to use those for the next podcast because, again, we're late anyway. So let's read this one about sponsorships. This one's from David. First off, I just want to say that your podcast is amazing. Well, thank you. Great information, but I wanted to know how a small channel that's under 500 subs can get sponsorship with a company. I've reached out to Playmate Toys, that's a big one, and got on their PR list and are trying to reach out to other companies but getting nothing back. Do you have any advice on how to get paid sponsorships? This is a great question. I love this. Like, this is, again, this is the type of questions we get on the podcast where they want to know something deeper. Now, here's the thing. First of all, bravo for reaching out to Playmate, which is a huge toys company. Huge toy company. Most people would not have the cojones to do that, but good on you. Here's an interesting side note. This is a similar thing. This not exactly a sponsorship, but something very similar happened. Jen and I were talking to a creator, and they do comic book and well, not comic books, but like action hero movies and TV show reviews. And I said, you could probably get in get a media pass to like the Comic Cons that are around. And he goes, really? I'm like, yeah, they're not a very big channel, just maybe like 2 or 3,000 subscribers. And he was like, you think so? I'm like, why don't you submit and find out? He emailed us like a week ago. He's like, oh my God, I'm going to the New York City Comic Con. I can't believe they accepted me. I'm like, yeah, I kind of know what I'm talking about. And in this particular case, there's a couple of things you can do to impress these companies. Number one, YouTube has now, I don't know at your size, depending on the views you're getting, if you're going to have a lot of these features, but there is a press kit option in the YouTube Studio, which gives you a bunch of information about your audience, which is what these companies want to know. Who is your audience? What's the age group? What countries are they watching from? How long are they watching? They are actually interested in that information. And then if you have affiliates with like Amazon or Walmart or Best Buy or something, and you have numbers that you can show that people are actually buying stuff through you, that's how you can get a sponsorship. A sponsorship is all about return on investment. A company isn't just paying you money just because. They're either getting one of 2 things out of it: exposure for their brand or sales. If you can't give them either, the chances of them working with you is almost none. But if you can give them at least one of those 2 things, typically you could at very least get like a free product to review or whatever, right? If you want actual money, you're going to need to show how they're going to be able to recoup not just that money, but more. And that can be hard at 500. It's not impossible. I think working with larger companies helps you do that. If you have a friend that works in a company and they're like, hey, can you just sponsor this one thing? I mean, give me like $20 or whatever, just so I can put, the company's logo on it or whatever and say I worked with you. Sometimes that's all you need. Like, you'd be surprised. Just be real. Think outside the box. The one thing I keep reminding YouTube content creators is that they're creators. You're supposed to be creative. Come up with a creative solution. But in order to be able to pitch to a larger company, you need to tell them what type of value you have. Have you had a lot of experience in this area, Dan?
Not a lot, no. This is an area I talked about it a little while ago, but this is an area that I am not as experienced in. I've talked to people. I've watched plenty of videos. There's a lot of advice out there, good advice from people who have been doing this a long time. And in the cases where a channel that's smaller is getting sponsored, it usually is because their niche is small enough to where they're still kind of like the top of their game, because it like they are one of the biggest creators in a small niche, essentially. It sounds like this creator, this company saw something in the creator and they're like, yeah, we'll add you to our list. Now, when they contact you, they might just say, hey, we're going to give you this toy, this kit, whatever it is, and we just want you to review it, but what you're getting from us is just the toy, and a lot of people, they're getting differing opinions on this. My opinion is if you're just starting out and you have this opportunity, don't do too much free work, but it's okay to do a little bit to try and like show that like, hey, like I can do this, you know? And that way you have some legacy content to point to and go, actually, like when I worked with, what's the company called again?
Playmates?
Playmates. When I worked with them in the past, Playmates?
Isn't it Playmates or Play? Yeah, I think
Play Mobile or when I worked with this other company in the past, we did this together, and you could show them. That's what the press kit does. It like shows them videos you've done in the past with people. Travis gave excellent advice. I can't add too much. Like affiliates, a great way to do that as well. Make sure if you do get the toy, but you don't get any compensation, you do see if they'll give you an affiliate link of some kind. If they don't, at least get yourself like an Amazon affiliate link, because you do want to attribute sales somehow to that content, and you have the link in there. Make sure you're following the right steps too, that it was a paid thing and all that. Like let people know you got the product for free. All that general advice. Don't try and be shady.
Never be shady.
Funny story. There's a company that once reached out to myself and some of my friends, and they wanted to do a like. First, they wanted us to play their game for free, and then some of us said, "Well, we know, like you can pay us for that." And they said, "Well, we're willing to pay you, but you can't tell anybody we did." And that's illegal. And they were from another country, and so maybe they don't have the same laws. So we didn't we were like, ooh, none of us accepted that deal.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, like just you need to disclose this stuff as just a side note. But yeah, no, I think everything Travis said is just fantastic advice.
Yeah, we can talk more about disclosures in another episode. I think that's a really good one. And the final one is also about paid promotions. This one's called Paid Promotions versus Affiliates by Kev. Hi, Jen, Travis, and also Rob if you're around this week. But Dan is here, so
it's just never mind me. All right,
they don't know that you could ever show up. I think is the thing. They're like, you'll never get Dan on the show.
Yeah, that guy is. Yeah.
Listen. First up, thanks for answering my question about restricted mode. It's great that we can address questions like this and get clear answers on a variety of topics and aspects of YouTube content creation. I truly appreciate the time you guys take out to answer these inquiries. I love doing it. Jen and I always talk about this is one of the funnest days of the week that we look forward to. We love these podcasts. We love answering your questions, so no problem. This email was inspired by something I saw on the vidIQ Facebook group where a member had asked a question regarding the paid promotion checkbox. Okay, we're about to get deep, Dan. You ready?
Okay.
All right, here we go.
We were just talking about this.
I know. Well, this is slightly different. My understanding of this is that you must declare if a company or sponsor reimbursed you or gave you the product to feature in their video. For example, a review product, or as is often the case for younger viewers, a toy. So ironic, right? That is magic. That is used to magically. I know, right? Were they listening to the podcast before it happened? That is used to magically save the day in a story roleplay video. Basically, anything that has a supplied product and focus reason for the video. With that said, would I be correct in assuming that affiliate links, such as Amazon associate programs, do not have to be disclosed if they only appear in the video description, or should that also be declared under the paid promotion tools? Any sites you can offer? Okay, that's an interesting one. So he said, with that said, am I correct? Affiliate links, such as the associates program, do not have to be disclosed if they only appear. So Amazon has their own rules on this. Obviously, if the link is in the description, it has to say that they're affiliate links. That's not even under question. I think what he's saying is, if you say, hey, if you want to buy this, you can click, there's a link in the description below. So there's two thoughts on this. There is, well, obviously, if they go down to the link in the description, they're going to see that it says it's an affiliate link, so it should be okay. There's that, right? Then there's the thing of, okay, well, that might be true, but Amazon constantly changes their rules around affiliate things. And they always say that, you always have to do the FTC stuff, which is what you have to do. But they also sometimes add additional things that say, like, even if you're just mentioning to go buy something, you have to say, you have to check the affiliate program's rules. Now, if you're talking about on YouTube specifically, if you're not talking about a product in the video, you shouldn't have to click that link, right? You shouldn't have to click it. It's irrelevant because you're not talking about it. FTC guidelines are different. I can talk about that in another episode. It's really deep, because I've actually emailed the FTC about this, so I know a little bit more than most people. But ultimately, you have to follow the rules of YouTube and then the rules of the affiliate, which might be different than the rules of YouTube. The one that governs you the most off the bat is YouTube, because if you do it wrong there, you kicked off. Now you don't have nothing to sell affiliates on. And then immediately after that, you have to look at what the affiliate sales, because if you don't follow the affiliate, they might kick you out of the program. Now you don't have nothing to sell. So I'm just going to say, check your affiliate rules and regulations on that, because sometimes they do want you to say it. Do you have to? If you, Hmm. This feels like it's on the line of giving like legal advice, and I'm more shying away from it than I initially did.
Yeah. So I have it in front of me, like the YouTube blurb. I'll just read this
Let's do
verbatim,
it. There we
and
go.
then I'll give you my take on it. So it says, does this video include paid promotion? If you were compensated to include a product or service in your video, you are required to let us know. If so, we'll alert viewers that your video contains paid promotion. Paid promotions are required to follow our ad policies and any applicable laws and regulations. And there's a button to click to learn more. And I recommend going to that before listening to anything I have to say. But my interpretation of this is the part where it says, if you were compensated, implying that you were given money up front or promised money up front by a company. Promised meaning like the contract says you have to make the video and then you get paid. That still means you're being compensated because there's an expectation, like an agreement that you will be paid if you do these things. Then yes, you have to click that button. However, if it's an affiliate link, my take on it is that there's no promise of being compensated. You put a link in your video. Maybe you didn't even reference it. So I like in my descriptions, I have a bunch of links for products I use, but I never talk about them. So I don't click the button. If I'm supposed to, someone tell me, please. But that is like that's how I personally interpret this. And you still have to abide by, if you're in America, the FTC. You still need to abide by YouTube's terms, and the learn more button is really your friend here, not me. This is just my personal way of approaching it. But that's how I handle it. Is like, unless someone told me I will give you X dollars for saying this in your video, then I'm not going to click the button. If I now where it gets really dicey is, what if you receive a product for free? And I think that question has been answered by somebody with more expertise than me, and I would just look up like that specific question somewhere that is not here because I don't know.
Yeah.
But that is like the one I've always kind of wondered about, and if I am in that situation again, I'm going to look it up because it is important. Like, because getting a product could be considered compensation, and I want to know what legally, like, what it actually is.
There are new rules the FTC has recently rolled out about things like even buying views for videos and stuff. Brand new stuff. So you have to stay up to snuff on this stuff if you are at the point where you're getting sponsorship and stuff like that. You have to always be ahead of it because I mean, are they going to come after you? Probably not. But by the same token, you don't want to be the example that was being made. You don't want to be the example.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. All right, look. We got through a lot of questions. There's still more to come, but those were more recent questions, so they'll be in the next episode, which means if you're here on the YouTube channel, you can hit that subscribe button and, come join the vid fam. If you're on the audio podcast, please leave us a great review on the Apple podcast. It actually does. It's a weird thing. On Apple, the more positive 5-star reviews you get, the higher you get a chance to get suggested. So if you're listening to us on Apple, then please do that. But we're on all audio and video podcasts. So, Dan, thank you so much for joining us this week.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Great to have you. I hope you had a lot of fun.
I did. Thank you for your awesome questions.
Well, we got great questions specifically for you, so I'm glad that those came in when they did. For everyone
for you and Jen, so you could try all you want to make me feel included in this. But
well, what's going to happen is for the next 3 weeks, we're going to be like, Rob, Jen, Travis, Dan. Dan won't
the
be
list
here.
keep growing. Every person
keep going and going and going to be everybody. We usually end each podcast with one thing. I guess we'll do that this time. We don't always do that, but we'll do it this time. What's the thing you've watched on YouTube lately, or in this past week that's left a kind of moment in your mind, something you might want to let people know about? It could be from a big channel, small channel. Have you seen anything this week that you particularly were interested in?
Is over the weekend. I watched a lot of the 2 streams Doug did for the Monterey Bay Aquarium. Every year he does these charity streams, and they do a lot of like conservation research and stuff. And I just enjoy like his style of humor and stuff. He's got some really cool things. He basically it was like an amalgamation of all the things he normally does on videos and streams, and did a whole weekend full of streams that just included community. He raised over $500,000. Last time I checked, it was approaching 600,000. Definitely the biggest amount ever raised on one of these events. And it really did get me excited about just what this platform can do for people and the world in general. So yeah, it was full of just awesome fun times, and just like for a really good cause. So that was what I watched.
Love it. For me this past weekend, I watched the Esports World Cup. They had a lot of different games this past weekend, but I was specifically watching Tekken 8, which I love Tekken 8. The winner won $800 or $300,000, which is a lot of money for playing a video game. But what's interesting is there in one of the earlier rounds, there was a guy who was down 4 games to nothing in a first to 5. Which, if you think about it, even sports analogies, that's impossible. You don't come back from that. And somehow came back and won 5 in a row. It was the most exciting, exhilarating thing to watch. People were like, "Oh my god!" It was so amazing. Had so much fun watching that. But everyone else, we love to hear from you. Of course, you can always reach out to us as we always do. And we'll see you guys and gals in the next one here on The Boost and Tube Talk.
Enjoy the rest of your video making day.